Welcome, Maud. How are you?
I'm very well, Dave. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for your time today. Could you share your background and your story with our viewers?
Yeah, I'm I'm originally a preclinical
Uh-huh.
neuropsychologist
Mm-hmm.
and worked a long time in drug development
Mm-hmm.
for Alzheimer's, stroke drugs, and then moved to Australia where I spent more time in the smaller listed companies
Mm-hmm.
as a chief scientist,
Mm-hmm.
and in the last 15 years more on the commercial side.
Wow. And and how's your experience been working across these sectors and in these organizations?
Look, it's been very interesting because in Europe, of course, uh, it's an ecosystem that's
Mm-hmm.
designed for biotech and pharma,
Mm-hmm.
and whole towns are
Mm-hmm.
employed by large pharmaceutical companies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Western Australia, it's a bit less so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a challenge initially, but on the upside, it allows you to pioneer new things
Mm-hmm.
that in a crowded environment like in Europe would not be possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been very interesting the last 20 years here in Western Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an amazing state
Mm-hmm.
to come to.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to create something, what we're creating now,
Mm-hmm.
is really a merit of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening here
Mm-hmm.
in this state.
Before we go on what you're working on, could you talk more on your journey to here rather than
Okay.
that's the culmination, but what has happened across your journey through your education, through your work experience, and what you have seen, which has led up to, say, aha moment?
Okay. Let me see, because it can be as long as you want it to.
As you want to.
Okay.
We don't have a time limit on this one.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small village
Mm-hmm.
in southern Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And there, like very early on, I was very much focused on what's happening in the world
Mm-hmm.
and how can we solve issues. Like at the time, there was the Cold War.
Yeah.
There were things around starvation in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just didn't make sense to me very much how this world is so out of balance. So when I went through my career, initially, my father said, you need to be an entrepreneur. And I said, no, I don't want to touch money. Money is not important
Money
for me.
bad.
Yeah, money is bad. And then I said, I'll go and study. I want to go to join the army.
Okay.
And I was a gymnast, so very disciplined in that sense. But when I said the psychological test for joining the army, it came back, no, you need to be a psychologist. I said, no, I set the test again. And the test came back very strongly. You need to go into psychology or anything social. I thought, all right, I'll follow that advice. I go and study psychology. And very quickly, I got a bit bored because it came very natural. And then I started branching out into the neuroscience space, which wasn't a word at that time. At that time, it was a form of psychology or a form of pharmacology. So I did my master's in what's called a preclinical neuropsychology in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And already always was looking at where is that linchpin kind of problem that I want to solve. That's going to, because that's what I love doing. I love seeing seemingly intractable problems and then stepping out and unraveling the underlying assumptions people have, the dogmas that we use to make life quicker. They can also often be the stumbling block to solve big problems. So worked a lot on that, got hired by Bayer in Germany very early on. They funded my PhD. And very quickly there, I was sent to do, work on recovering cognitive function. So your brain capacity after a stroke or Alzheimer's, which again are very intractable problems. So in my first year of PhD, I got pregnant. So my husband is a microbiologist, so both in the science space, and we should have known better. And I thought that's the end of my PhD. And they actually said, but no, we're going to support you. It's up to you what you want to do. And that was amazing to get that level of support. So they gave me 2 PhDs, technicians in the lab who could support my experiments because I couldn't go into those chemical labs anymore. And I virtually wrote all my scientific publications within that first year of my PhD. And because I had this deadline of a baby's coming. And that then showed Bayer that I was exceptionally good at managing these situations.
Or you need to have a child for the next one.
Exactly. So then they, instead of that destroyed my career, it was actually the opposite effect because I could demonstrate.
You're faster.
Yeah, that this ability, because I had this massive deadline, and in my young mind, it was really a deadline that I have no idea what's going to happen after that. And so that was actually really good. So Bayer promoted me to an R&D executive role after my first son was born, which then I did my PhD on the side after that. That was an amazing experience. Working for Bayer, traveling the world, working with the top labs in the world, and really getting a budget behind you to develop what is needed at that time. Unfortunately, Bayer went through a restructure, and we took that opportunity to take a redundancy and come to Australia.